Good afternoon. My name is Marty O'Shea, Superintendent of Schools for Long Meadow Public Schools, and I'm joined this afternoon by Sue Bertrand, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. And periodically, from time to time, I'll be partnering with LCTV to bring some programming to the homes in Long Meadow so folks can understand some of the great things that are happening here in Long Meadow Public Schools. So we are today, we'd like to talk to the community a little bit about the results of our MCAS tests in 2016. We call this our Assessment and Accountability Report. And so Sue coordinates our teaching and learning initiatives and has worked closely with the principals and teams of teachers to break down the results and to hopefully use the results to assist with our improvement efforts. So when we approach our standardized test results, we have a set of guiding principles, I think, that assist how we approach the scores. And I think that it's important for everyone to recognize that we measure student growth and development in many different ways. The MCAS tests are one indicator that we use to judge the growth and achievement of our students, but certainly beyond MCAS, there are other measurements that are both developed internally, and then there are other external measurements that help us understand the achievement levels of our students. Next, we also like to think that we use MCAS results as a flashlight rather than a hammer. If MCAS were a tool, we describe it as a flashlight. It's a tool that illuminates our work. It shines a light on those things that we should celebrate and shines a light on those areas that we need to work on as well. And we also want everyone to understand that MCAS results shouldn't be used as a hammer for improvement, that it's not meant as a tool to punish or judge our achievement levels, but rather a way to light the path, to light the way forward for us. We also approach teaching and learning with a focus on the standards. We often will talk to teachers about making sure we're not approaching MCAS in a test prep mode, that it's not teaching to the test, but we believe that if we focus on good instruction, if we focus on the curriculum standards, that the test results will follow. Additionally, we like to follow sort of a balanced approach to MCAS. Again, recognizing that there are many, many ways to judge student growth and achievement, and that student learning can take many shapes and many forms. And in addition to achievement, we also want to ensure that students have outlets to grow in terms of creativity, critical thinking, their artistic talents, their musical talents. There's so much happening, so many exciting things happening here on a daily basis in Long Meadow Public Schools, that we want to make sure that we are balanced in our response to MCAS scores. And finally, I credit Sue and our administrative team to making sure that we have a very child-centered approach to the data that we review, that every child has a story, and that the data is there to help us understand the particular strengths and weaknesses of a child, but also understanding that there are many, many influences on that child's learning. And that really, MCAS is a snapshot. It's a performance snapshot that's taken on a single day in the spring, and we need to keep that in perspective. So those are some of the principles that guide us as we sit down to review MCAS and dive into the results. There are many, many questions that MCAS can answer for us, and Sue can take us through some of those things.
Okay, so when our principals and teachers and department chairs dive into the data, they have to ask themselves, why they're digging into that data and what they can get from it. And some of the kinds of questions they can answer is, are there persistent patterns of student achievement within that data they can look at? What are the characteristics of a cohort class? Sometimes we have classes that go through that perform extremely well, and we want to monopolize on those kinds of characteristics and teach them to other students, and we look at that pretty closely all the way through. We look at achievement over years. How has it changed? Is it improving? Is it decreasing? Is there a dip? Is the dip measurable? Or can we put that off to something that happened in the district? Did the state take a dip? So we look at those kinds of things.
So we're going to spend some time in the next few minutes taking a look at the district level MCAS results. And for the purposes of this LCTV program, we're focusing on district level results, but certainly school level results will be available on our website. And also, if anyone wants to dive deeper into the data, the Massachusetts Department of Education's website has more MCAS data than you might possibly want. And so we'll take a look at a high level of some of our results and where those results are pointing us. So to begin, we should look at accountability levels.
So accountability levels is the highest level of measurement, really, and it's measurement of the whole district and the schools towards a growth point. So we do a great job here in Longmeadow. We have level 1 and level 2 schools. The majority of the schools in the state are level 2 and lower, and we are lucky enough to have several level 1 schools, and the district overall is a level 2. So Blueberry Hill's a level 1. Moved from level 2 to level 1 last year. Center School remains a 2. Wolf Swamp is a 2. Glenbrook is a 1. Williams is a level 2. And it literally slipped back by a couple of points from a level 1 last year. So very small margin there. Put Williams into a level 2. And Longmeadow High School is a level 1 and has been there for years. And overall, the district is a level 2.
Yeah, we're really pleased with the overall accountability level results. And as Sue pointed out, to have 3 of our schools as level 1 performing schools is remarkable. There are a very small percentage of elementary schools and middle schools in particular that achieve that level 1 status. So we're really pleased to see that high level result. And the accountability levels, they really focus on our efforts to close achievement gaps. And we are expected to show progress, student progress and student growth among many different subgroups. And so whether we're talking about high need students or students who are English language learners or Title I students, in all of those categories, we're expected to make growth to achieve those level 1 results overall. So we're really, really pleased with the accountability levels that we're seeing.
So we get scores back from MCAS in 2 different ways. We get achievement scores and growth scores, and you'll see them on the paperwork that comes home on your own students' scores. But achievement scores measure how students score on any given test. Just like you're taking a math test and you get an 80 or 90 or 100%, that's achievement score. They're scored in advanced, proficient, needs improvement, and warning categories, so they're broken down into 4 sections. And then the student median, their student growth, is a little bit of a different score. It compares the growth of Longmeadow students with the growth of students with similar scores across the state. So you're comparing kind of apples to apples in that way. And we, typically, the state likes to see 40 to 60 percentiles for growth, and we oftentimes get above that. So.
Yeah, certainly. As we'll show you shortly, we saw scores at many grade levels where the growth percentiles went well beyond 60, so that was impressive. So we'll show a handful of charts that try to illustrate at a high level the performance results that we've seen. And so this chart is blank, obviously, but it shows, these charts will show the achievement levels, the percentage of students that performed at proficient or better. And there are a number of different ways that one can look at MCAS results. In this particular slide, you'll see that the arrow shows how, say, 4th grade performs over time, the percentage of students scoring at proficient and advanced in 2012, 13, 14, 15, and 16. But as Sue mentioned earlier, we can also use charts such as this to follow the performance of a particular cohort. So if we looked at today's, the scores that the 7th graders generated in the spring of 2016, those same students were 3rd graders in 2012. So we can track the performance of a cohort over time, and that's important because, as Sue mentioned earlier, every class comes with its own set of unique strengths and weaknesses and challenges, and so we want to look at the performance at a particular grade level over years, but we also want to look at the performance of a cohort in a particular year. And of course, the charts that we'll show you also can show the performance in any given year. And to anyone reviewing the results, either in this presentation or perhaps, digging into some data that's on our website, I would just caution you that every test is different, and, frankly, the performance of students across the state varies. The middle school tests, tend to be more challenging across the state, and so we perform well above state averages, but you'll see in some cases that the performance might not be even across every grade. So we'll start with performance in English language arts.
So these are district-level achievement scores, meaning all the schools combined across the district, and also students that we have placed in out-of-district programs. Those scores come back to the district and count in this as well. So just some particularly nice things to look at is the fourth grade achievement between 2015 and 2016, and then also from third grade 2015, across, we had a good year. We're steadily climbing, so that's good.
Yeah, so again, you can look at the chart in any number of ways, and one of the things that we emphasize here, if you look at the performance of students, in a single year, from in 2016, for example, you'll notice that when students, by the time they reach 10th grade, their performance levels is really almost exactly where you would want it to be, where 98% of the students are proficient or better. So we like to look at, we think of ourselves as a single unit. It's a continuum, and that, we want to make sure that by the time students hit that 10th grade MCAS, and frankly, by the time they get their diploma in 12th grade, that we've given them the skills and tools they need to be successful in the later grades. So the next slide is growth scores.
Yeah, these are these growth scores that we talked about, comparing our students to other students across the state, and we had some great growth this year. Fourth grade, 65 percentile for growth is amazing. In eighth grade ELA, 73%. It's just really off the charts there.
Yeah, you don't see very often, you won't see growth scores where, so what that 73, for example, would indicate is that 73% of our students performed better than students with a similar score history. So it's an apples to apples sort of comparison, and to see growth scores in the 73rd percentile is really remarkable at the eighth grade. Again, this is ELA, English Language Arts. And the next thing we can look at is our math scores at the district level.
Yeah, so district achievement in math, again, we had a great year in math. Look at fourth grade, up in the 79th percent proficient and advanced. Took a little dip in 7th and 8th, and then 10th grade right back up there to 95, the best score we've had in several years. So.
Excellent.
And this is math growth score, so comparing students to their counterparts who scored similarly across the state. 73.5 growth score in fourth grade is really, again, incredible. 7th grade, 68.5, and dip in 8th grade that we're taking a look at and dealing with. So nice scores overall there.
Now, these slides that we have shown you show the percentage of students scoring at the proficient or better range. We also want to make sure that we're looking at the percentage of students who are scoring in the advanced range. And so this chart is very busy. I wouldn't expect anyone at home or even looking at it more closely here to look at the individual slices of data, but there's an overall impression one should get from this particular chart. And you look at the upward slope for each test at each grade level, where we are pushing more and more students into the advanced range over a series of years. So I'll use one example, grade 3 math. You'll look at back in 2011, the shortest bar, just a little more than 10% of our students were achieving at the advanced range. but you look at the trajectory, the trend over time, where now in grade 3, over 50% of our students are scoring in the advanced range at grade 3 math. So you'll see that pattern is repeated in most grade levels, where there's a general trend upward, and we're seeing more and more students scoring in the advanced ranges. So this just isolates those students at that particular level. And then the next couple of charts sort of illustrate what we're talking about here, just in more granular form. And take a look again, grade 3 math, 11% in 2011, up to 51% of students scoring in the advanced range in 2016. And, that's remarkable improvement at a time when, here we're showing you what the percentages are like at the state level, and you'll see that in all areas we are, a greater percentage of our students are scoring in the advanced range at each of these elementary categories. And so we're really proud of that. To look at the middle school level, there's a couple of spots here where we would like to see better results, but again, generally by and large, we are performing well beyond what we see across the state. Sue has often made the point to us that Massachusetts is a leader in public education in the country, and Longmeadow is a leader in the state of Massachusetts. So I really like to think that our students are, receiving some of the finest levels of education that they possibly could in the country. At the high school level, again, you look at the growth, percentage of students in the advanced range, 34% in 2011 in science, up to 49% in 2016. So the trend lines appear to be moving in the right direction in most cases, and frankly, there are some places where we'd like to see better results, and those are areas that we have been in discussion with teachers and our administrative team. So we want to talk a little bit about what we see as working at the elementary level. Why is it that we are seeing such positive results? And then also talk a little bit about where we should continue to focus and what should be ongoing points of emphasis. So again, MCAS highlights those areas that, where we are being successful, but they also point the light in directions where we think we should continue to focus. So Sue can take us through this.
So this past year was our first full year of our new math expressions program. We piloted it the year before. So students had a full year of a brand new math program that was consistent across the curriculum, and I think that was really helpful. We are digging deep into math and looking at the rigor of it, and that the scores came up in the majority of cases for math. Yeah.
And I'd say, whenever you roll out a new series, it takes a number of years to see the results, and I think the investment that Longmeadow made in that math expression series at the elementary level is starting to pay off.
Yeah.
And so,
in fact, typically it takes a dip after you start a new text. So This was up, which was great. We do a literacy collaborative model at the elementary school, where we have Readers and Writers workshop where students pick just right books for them. That's been really helpful for students' growth. We have some wonderful lit coaches at the elementary schools that get into classrooms and work with teachers on best practices in literacy.
I'd just say, with the coaches, that's been a great model for us here in Longmeadow, where if you have staff, we have very talented teachers and teachers that can be teacher leaders, and so those individuals have been identified and sort of elevated into coaching roles, and they're providing sort of job-embedded ongoing professional development. That's been a great model, I think.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. We have RTI and our win blocks that we put in place a few years back at elementary school. The principals and teaching staff continue to tweak those blocks and use them for all kinds of things, but lots of remediation, enrichment kind of happens in those blocks. That's been very helpful. And then we have some additional teacher collaboration time that we added a couple of years back, where the teachers have time on Monday and Wednesday after school to get together to plan units and collaborate on students.
And we have such precise data now on student growth and achievement. And I remember when I was teaching, you would have achievement scores that were painted with a broad brush. You would know how a particular school was doing, perhaps, and maybe a particular grade level. But now, the data that we have allows us to show, the needs of individual students. And so that's really powerful. And so, when we have that specific data, we can create instructional practice to help learners at that individual level. So that's been a game changer, I think, in education. And again, I just kind of contrast it with, how things were when I was teaching, and I didn't have that data at that individual student level beyond what I generated as a teacher.
Kind of teaching to the median instead of targeted instruction.
Targeted instruction, absolutely, yeah. So some focal areas, yeah.
So our principals got together and decided there were some areas they wanted to continue to work on. And one of them is to continue to go a readers and writers workshop. We have a new science kit in elementary this year that's amazing. Your kids are probably talking about it at home, so that's in place now. They think we are going to continue with more differentiation, more professional development on that, but also providing more targeted instruction to meet the needs of all learners.
Yeah, just jump in on the FOSS Science Series, so that as Sue said, year one of implementation of the FOSS Science Series. Again, it was a critical investment that we made, and the teachers have been digging into the materials. And what I like about FOSS and what I've seen is that it allows for a lot of inquiry-based learning, and kids have opportunities to learn in a hands-on way, and it's, I think it's exciting. It's material rich. There's a lot of lab materials that come with that FOSS Science Series.
A lot of digging in, yeah. Providing ongoing and meaningful professional development continues to be an area of focus. Detailed analysis of MCAS and other assessments to identify targeted areas of improvement. That goes back to identifying where students need to be targeted for improvement. Coaching, ongoing embedded professional development through the coaching model is wonderful, and we'll continue that wherever we can.
I just mentioned on the other assessments, I think that's important for everyone to understand that our teachers are regularly assessing and checking for student learning, and there's a number of spots where they're doing some dipstick kind of testing just to figure out where children are and what they need. And again, that has been sort of a game changer, I think, in education.
For sure.
These days.
At elementary, for sure, it's Ames Web and the BAS assessment, and then some common assessments as well, along with MCAS kinds of data. And we're looking to give a little more focus on the elementary to middle school transition. So what will elementary students need to be ready for middle school, and what are the expectations of our sixth grade teachers from our elementary students? So we're working on that kind of collaboration.
So at the middle school, again, as we have kind of jumped into the data, we have tried to identify the factors that have provided us with some improvement, and then those factors, those things that we should continue to look at. So in terms of what's working at the middle school level.
So a few years back, we put some funds into classroom libraries so that all middle school classrooms have a pretty good range of library books in their classrooms for students to pick. There's been an increase in interdisciplinary or cross-curriculum work between reading and writing, and adding reading and writing to all subject areas. We have a lot of co-teaching going on between special education and regular education. And we have, at the middle schools, we have a math and lit lab for interventions as well. And we've implemented close reading strategies in the classroom. A lot of dialogue goes on, and we're trying to get the kids to become, more reasoning and more critical thinkers.
I've been impressed with the math and literacy labs at the middle school, where again they identify where children are, what they need, and they might give them a little extra dose of instruction, and it might be temporary or it might be more sustained. But if you notice that kids are starting to fall off the learning curve, we've got some interventions, some places where children can go to get that extra dose of instruction. So those math labs have been very, very successful.
Again, based on assessments and targeted instruction, so they know right where to go with their instruction.
Sort of we're information rich, and then hopefully we're taking some steps to respond to that information. At the middle school level, the areas that we want to continue to focus on as a way to improve regularly.
So vertical alignment with high school, greater attention to the elementary and middle school transition, common assessments, digging deeper into the frameworks, the Common Core, preparing students for higher order inquiry and multiple sources and project-based learning. We're digging deep into that this year in all subject areas. And differentiation, more tiered instruction to meet the needs of all learners. I think that will be ongoing and forever.
Those, the alignment conversations are really critical to our growth, making sure that we have adequate time for elementary teachers to talk to their middle school counterparts and middle school teachers to talk to their high school counterparts, so that it's a sort of a seamless transition from one grade span to the next. And so I know that's something that Sue is very interested in as a assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. But it is something that the teachers really enjoy diving into those discussions. Teaching can be sometimes an isolating profession, but when teachers have opportunities to connect with their colleagues to talk about student learning, great things happen. So we're really pleased with that. There seems to be a real interest in having those conversations, those transitional conversations.
And then, again, at middle school, embedded professional development where we can get it, curriculum coordination, and obviously data analysis.
Yeah, that embedded PD concept, I think, is critical to our success as well. So many talented teachers in the district, and rather than going to outside providers all the time, we know that we've got a lot of expertise in-house that we can tap into, and so we're fortunate that happens regularly. At the high school level, some of the results that we're seeing in terms of MCAS.
Yeah, these numbers speak for themselves, really, and over time they've been sustained. These are 10th grade students who achieve proficient or above. They're 99% of students in ELA, 96% in math, and 98% in science, and those are just amazing scores. And teachers are fabulous. The students come to school every day ready to learn, and it's just a great place to be. So,
and I think what this tells us is that if there are some challenges along the way at third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, wherever it happens to be, at the end of the day, we get children to where they need to be, and so those are remarkable achievement rates at Long Meadow High School.
Yeah, I'd say it's fair that everybody works hard to get kids to know what they need to know.
And then you think about, again, in addition to ensuring that all students are sort of proficient or better, we want to make sure we are challenging our most advanced learners. And I've often thought that the strength of a district really directly correlates to the strength of its advanced placement program, because to get students into advanced placement programs at the high school, you need a strong foundation at the elementary and the middle school level. So this chart, I think, speaks volumes, and hopefully it shows the community the return on investment, I think, that we're able to provide. If you think from 2009 to 2016, more students enrolled in advanced placement classes, taking more exams and achieving at higher passing rates. More students taking more tests, performing at higher levels. So the program has broadened, and it's more inclusive, and yet kids are performing at higher levels.
With
Remarkable.
less enrollment overall in school.
Right, and right at a time when enrollment has fallen off slightly at the high school. That's a great point. Right. So what is working at the high school?
So everything is working at the high school. If you walk through the halls, you can see that. But curriculum and instructional delivery are effective and on target. The different departments look at their curriculum maps every year, and they follow them pretty strictly. They have common assessments ongoing. They have focused PD on best practice, and the high school has lots of teachers who are willing to step up to the plate and provide PD. They do that almost on every PD day. There's curriculum blocks for teachers to meet together and work together, and the offering and the schedules to meet individual needs are just fabulous at the high school.
So maybe that curriculum mapping, can you Tell us a little bit about that, how that works.
So every year, say the history department gets together and talks about, the scope and sequence of what they're going to teach, 9 through 12. They take a look at their curriculum maps, which they have on a program called Atlas, and look for supplemental information for them, look to see if they need to change any of that focus around, what's happening in the world today, what's going on, those things that they need to address. So that happens through the curriculum coordinators at that.
So the great thing is that when the curriculum's mapped out, it's written, it's articulated, it's a really well-defined scope and sequence, and so rather than a teacher sort of making their own decisions about what to teach, when to teach it, they're doing it as a team, and they can identify what needs to happen. And the other thing, when there's turnover, when you have new people entering the department,
Step in to something that's already kind of ready for you.
it's ready to go. And then that last bullet there, the offerings and the schedule to meet individual needs. And, we can't underestimate the richness of the high school's program of studies. Kids get what they need, depending on, the level of rigor that they're looking for.
And their area of interest as well.
And their area of interest. And it's a tremendously rich set of offerings. Never resting on our laurel. The high school has some areas that they want to continue to focus on.
So they want to keep aligning to the standards. The new standards come out on a fairly regular basis. They're going to continue to work with their colleagues at the middle school for vertical alignment and continue with their analysis of assessments to identify the targeted area of needs for student improvement as well.
And it's great to see that emphasis on the standards, again, because we feel like if we focus on good instruction, if we focus on the standards, if we focus on having aligned curriculum, then the results will take care of themselves.
Right.
So, what I've seen is that we are not test focused. We understand the role that MCAS plays. It's an important indicator of our success, but it's not the only indicator. And so that has been encouraging to see. One of the challenges, though, is that we are the educational landscape is shifting somewhat, and there is a new MCAS that's in development at the 3rd through 8th grade level.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
So,
Shift at all?
yeah, sure. Our next generation MCAS is going to be asking students to dive deeper into text especially. It will ask them to start writing more rigorous passages earlier on, answering to text, synthesizing, text sets, multiple pieces of text. So the rigor really has come up quite a bit. We've done some prep work already. The middle school's worked on taking some practice tests as teachers to see what kids will be expected of, and we've had some professional development on those kinds of things. So 4th and 8th grade take them online this year, increasingly.
Computer-based test
Yeah.
is on the horizon. 4th and 8th grade will be taken in a computer-based environment, and then other grades likely to follow in subsequent years. So we not only have to prepare students for the shift in rigor, we have to prepare students for the shift in the testing platform, going from a paper and pencil-based test to a computer-based test. So there's a lot happening in the world of standard and MCAS, and it's a moving target for us sometimes, but our administrative team, our teachers are doing a great job making sure they're prepared so that they can prepare their students for the next generation MCAS test.
And again, just one measurement that we look at throughout the year. So
one measurement, a single indicator. It's a snapshot of a student's performance on a single day, and so we recognize that, and that's an important part of one of the principles that we follow very closely. So at some point, we may come back to the community and talk a little bit about the next generation MCAS test, and we appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
thanks.